This is The Changed Physician, episode 249. Welcome back to The Changed Physician. I am Melissa Cady, the Challenge Doctor, with my co-host, Dr. Kevin Cuccaro from the West Coast. I'm here in Texas, right in the smack dab in the middle of everything.
Of Texas.
Yes, and in the middle of
That's
Texas.
a very Texan thing to say, smack dab in the middle of everything.
How y'all doing? I don't have my cowboy hat or cowboy boots now. Texans are not necessarily like that. There's a lot of us city people that don't really live the cinema perception of Texas. Let's just say that. Well, today is a different kind of conversation. It's because of Kevin. He found this nice email from Sahil Bloom. You want to tell us what you came across and what we're going to chat about?
Yeah, sure. I don't know how, you stumble on the interwebs and you stumble on something. And so Sahil Bloom he kind of curates a bunch of stuff and kind of aggregates all this stuff and puts it together in kind of an easy consumable fashion. So I subscribed to his newsletter. And a couple of them I've saved. This one really kind of hit me because it was life lessons for 1,000 years. And basically he's a younger guy. He's 30, turned 32 this year, apparently. And he had a son a year ago. And so he was asking like old people, octogenarians, not octogenarians, nonagenarians, because 80 isn't old anymore. It's really 90 to 100. He said, well, what would you tell a 32-year-old knowing what you know now? And this, there's been other publications on this and books, like hospice nurses have, the one I'm thinking of, where they've taken people on their deathbed and kind of gotten their like deathbed sort of best of, what would you do now if you knew, now that you're going to die, like what are the things that you have regrets about? So I kind of like those, because if you take people, the best way to measure what a future experience is going to be, or the future kind of desires that you have in a future point, is to ask somebody who's already there. Yeah. Like our ability to project into a future for ourselves is extraordinarily malleable and dependent upon like literally what happened yesterday and our future state. I think we talked about that in one of the books. Awesome book, one of my favorites, Stumbling on Happiness by Dan Gilbert, just talks about this, and it was amazing. So the summary at the end is literally just find people who are there and ask them, and you're probably not going to like it, but that's really the best way to figure out what the experience is going to be like. So this was the advice of these 90-plus-year-olds to him. They said over 1,000. So if you figure if people are 90 to 100 years old, there was probably a little over 100 participants, and they're fine. So what I want to do is kind of read through some of these statements and see what your opinions are on this, Melissa, and we can give some context. So number one was, now and then break out the fancy china and drink the good wine for no reason at all.
And in his commentary, you want me to say what his commentary was?
Sure, that's fine.
So stop waiting to enjoy the finer things. If tomorrow's never guaranteed, find the time to enjoy them today. I have to agree, because sometimes you think you get so fixated on your just day-to-day and survival mode, or you got to get things done. And there's always a to-do list. So it's like, okay, what are you prioritizing? The work or enjoying life? And so obviously every once in a while you got to like break the pattern. So I think that's great advice.
Well, and I think about it, well, again, because I'm so egocentric and all this stuff, is like we have a bunch of wine, and I have a bottle of 96 Dom Perignon that I still have, and I remember when I'm like, oh, I'm gonna buy this and then we're gonna save it for a special occasion, and then the goalposts kept moving.
Yeah,
like it was when this happens, we're gonna drink this wine, and it happened, and I'm like, well, this happens, we'll drink the wine, and even needless to say, there's been like 5 things that have happened, and we still haven't drank this thing, and now it becomes more of like, I'm not sure if we can finish a bottle of champagne, so who then do we drink it with? Because that's the other thing. But it kind of just, so from that kind of perspective is, I think about like we have all these things of a potential special event, like when this happens, I'm going to do this. Yeah. But really every day has the potential to be a special event. So how could you make today, this, like we're recording on this a Saturday, you're listening to this episode, how could you make today special? Is there something that you perhaps have been saving for a non-specific special occasion? Something that doesn't have any sort of goalpost, but it's going to be that day. How can you break that out now and just celebrate today? because really every day we should be celebrating in some way, shape, or form, if only because it's either moved us toward where we want to go, or we've learned enough that that's not the path that we want to be on, or it's provide some life lessons for the future. Sometimes it can be really hard, but every time we have an experience, there's a chance to have a celebration. So how, and then, taking these moments to just in the moment appreciate how special today is, I think is really cool. So I really like that one.
Yeah. And actually, I was going to say, just making it special. Like a lot of times we grow up with our parents or our schools or our work creating the festivity to celebrate something. And I've come to learn later in life that there's strength to even creativity to create an excuse to bring people together. It doesn't have to be the standard birthday or anniversary. It could be celebrating something, or it could be just because, or gratitude for something. And you create that. Like no one's celebrating unless someone puts that structure together, or they've created in your mind, it's been indoctrinated in you from society that you do a happy birthday or you have a birthday party. Like there's no reason to have a birthday only to do a celebration. So I think kind of
you're gonna have your unbirthday. Is it your unbirthday today? It's my unbirthday too.
My unbirthday too. Yeah, like that's just, it's
From
great.
Alice in Wonderland. Yeah.
And the thing too about wine, breaking out the wine, I personally don't think that alcohol is necessarily beneficial for our health. But what I do find that if it's used in moderation, because obviously we have livers, we have things that detoxify our bodies a lot. So if things aren't totally abused, I find that it helps you sometimes, and not that it should be used necessarily as the only thing that relieves anxiety or whatever, but sometimes to unwind with a friend, to connect more, to not be lonely and maybe spend time together and enjoy things more. I think that's where sometimes that glass of wine can be, and that's just my opinion, can be the most beneficial.
Well, the way you frame that, it doesn't have to be a glass of wine. Like if for some reason
it can be anything.
There's a perception of something being special. Like most of the stuff we're talking about is being perceptions anyways. Like what is a holiday? It's a social construct that we've created. Yeah. And a lot of the holidays have been basically created. All of the holidays have been created out of the blue from some playing. Some of them have been longer. So I'm like, now maybe we should create Just Because Day. And I've been trying to figure out, like, I have thought about this before. Like, is there a way to set some like random timer so that'll just go off, right? On one day it'll just wake up and it'll just be like, happy Just Because Day. And then that's the day to just do things just because, right?
Right. Get you in the mood to do something special.
To get you in the mood to do stuff. Like my mom, man, my mom's so awesome. And when I was younger, one of the most precious gifts that she gave me was she always like, once I knew I was responsible for my own actions, meaning school, whatever, I was responsible, not her. She didn't micromanage me. And there was times like, man, I at least 2 or 3 times that I remember in high school, it's like, I didn't want to go to school. And she was like, I was like, I just didn't want to go. I'm like, I don't really want to go to school. And she's like, okay. And then she's like, you know what? I don't want to go to work. And we literally both played hooky. And this one time we drove off, we lived in Carson. So it's about 2 hours to Sacramento. So we drove to Sacramento. We decided to go to lunch at this place I really like it's not very good anymore, called the Nut Tree. Back then it was pretty fun. And we drove out to the Nut Tree and we had lunch there. And then we went to this big old maze thing and did the maze. And then we went to Sacramento and we watched the movie. I saw Rain Man. That was where we watched Rain Man. It was the best. And we did it just because. So I'm like, we need more Just Because days. And now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, I need to figure out how to do Just Because days. Like, how do I make this happen?
Yeah. Look at the memory you had from that.
Yeah, it's awesome. So anyway, that's a long way to say that, yeah, we've got to break out the China and the fine wine and just do it on Just Because Day.
Yeah. Let's see. Number 2.
Am I saying it?
I'll say it. And I'll say it because it says dance at weddings until your feet are sore. It says, and in his commentary was, don't let the fear of embarrassment stop you from having a ball. Dance proudly. This, I will tell you, I know it's a problem for a lot of people. I don't know what it is about me, but since I've been a teenager, I've always been the first one on the dance floor. I'll literally want to do it to make other people feel comfortable. So that's just, this whole fear thing. The funny thing is, the more you dance, the more you get, for most part, you tend to get better, at least more confident, or at least care less about what people think. You just have to overcome that initial like concern. Funny thing is, once you get out there and other people getting out there, people aren't going to really, they're thinking about themselves the whole time, or the person in front of them that they're dancing with, or just listening to music and not even paying attention to you. So I think we magnify our fears out of worried about embarrassment and stuff, but there's no point in that. Just enjoy yourself. I mean, you feel better just by moving. We know the brain does better when you move anyway. So it's a win-win.
And I would think the magic words you say is you just don't care, right? Is I will say I am not the first person on the dance floor, and a lot of times I'm not on the dance floor, and I have danced and had really, really good times. And then there are times I have not danced for a myriad of reasons, probably some of that whole, oh yeah, I don't want to look stupid thing. But what I have noticed is the people who don't care have the most fun. Like, so I every time I think about dancing, one of my friends from college, was this big guy. He was like, when he came to school, he was like 6'1", 225, really muscular. He was originally going to play like, he wanted to play baseball or something. I don't remember what he was. He was going to redshirt. Needless to say, we ruined him, and he became a big party animal. But dude, this guy would get out on the dance floor and just go crazy and be wild. But and you could, and it wasn't like he had the slickest moves anywhere, but he just didn't care, and it was infectious. Like he had a ball. And so I would that's like the goal for attainment to me, is where if I can get to the point where I can be like, and his name's Mike Izzo, he will never hear this, but if he did, I could just be like an Izzo and go out there and have the greatest time and literally not care. Because you kind of think about it, is all those people on the sidelines that you think are judging you are actually on the sidelines.
Yeah.
They're not out there. So how, what are they judging? They're basically living in their own fears and sort of judging themselves. So anyway, I like that too. And it reminds me to, if I ever have an opportunity, I got to dance more,
Yeah, because you might just help unleash a little bit of confidence in someone else who's on the sideline to jump in there.
That's true. That's true.
The more bodies on the dance floor, the increase, you increase the odds for others to participate. So there's definitely a viral video out there of some guy at some park that started.
Oh, yeah.
And just the whole social dynamics. It's like, you know what? Just like go have fun. And, do I think maybe they're watching me and stuff? And I'm just trying to do the best dancing I can. And, the more rusty I am, the more I need to get out there and dance more. So just freaking enjoy it. I can't say the same thing about singing. I'll try to sing at my house, but I'm more likely to want to dance than sing in public.
Singing would be the same thing.
It would, but the more people are singing with you, the more you're likely to do it. So, if it was a solo a cappella, people are going to probably run away from me and I'll break their wine glasses. Anyway, number 3, you, Kevin.
Number 3.
We'll do the first 10.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Tell your partner you love them every night before falling asleep.
Yes.
Someday you'll find the other side of the bed empty and wish you could.
That makes me want to cry, but yeah.
And I think that doesn't have to be just your partner. It has to be the people that you care about. Because I'll probably cry on that one. Having lost people. And that's
reality check.
Talking about this one, I think we just talked about on Saturday Salutations, is life can change in a heartbreak, right?
Yeah, literally.
And being able to tell the people that you care about, not waiting, kind of like with one, breaking out the wine, not waiting for a special occasion to tell them, but just to tell them and to maybe express the things that you've been wanting to express for a long time, or tell people that you appreciate them. If you're waiting for the perfect moment, the moment really is now.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree with that one. I have a super morbid thing I do with my family is when people are leaving. I've had the privilege literally for most of my kids' except for when they were younger. Since we've lived in Oregon, for most of the time we've lived in Oregon, I've been able to see my kids off to school every day, which is really cool. And when people are leaving the house, I make a point of taking them to the door and seeing them out, because there's a little piece of me says, if this is the last time, I want, if something happens, I want to know the last moment that I was engaged with them.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's sort of a little morbid thing, but on the other hand, it's, I know, I tell them I'm doing it for that reason. And I think they think I'm a kook, but I love being able to see like my family when they leave. Like if they're leaving, I know I'm there. And when they are not, if for some reason I'm doing something to leave without, when I don't know about it, I do notice that. And I have this weird little piece of me that's like, hope nothing happens, because I wasn't there to say, love you or see you later or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Launching off that, number 4 is don't fear sadness, as it tends to sit right next to love. His comment was, this is part of the fundamental balance and tension of life. The joy of love comes in the same package as the pain of loss. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of all these reality checks we've been talking about. Like, this is part of the life experience. Death is part of life. It's kind of juxtaposed with it. So, the more you love something, the more you can be sad, from that loss.
Without a doubt. If you haven't lost anything, then you probably haven't lived. You know, it's sort of like it's sort of in the physical realm. If you haven't fallen down and skinned your knees, then you probably haven't done anything really physical and haven't really pushed yourself enough. Like, you have to do it within reason. And this is a big one. When I see something like this particular one, I know I read this in a previous thing, is the passage on joy and sorrow by Khalil Gibran from the book The Prophet, which is I love that book. It's just the summary of it is basically, you can't only have a joy without suffering, and your suffering carves the furrows through which your joy can flow, kind of letting you know it's those losses that really then let you appreciate what you have, your relationships that you have. And it's not like you want those losses, but they are important to your growth. So
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a huge imprint.
A huge imprint. And you don't really know, like, what is that? There's in some song, you don't know what you got until it's gone.
Yeah.
Is that I can't.
Is that a country song?
I think it's a country song. You don't know what you've got till it's gone.
Is it Willie Nelson?
Well, all right. This is the internet. Don't know what you got till it's gone.
Get your chat GPT.
Yeah. Oh, there's a Cinderella song.
No, it's not that.
But I thought there was one before that.
Yeah. Did you put country?
I must have the wrong words, because the only thing that's coming up is Cinderella. Don't know what you got till it's gone.
Oh, maybe it is.
Maybe it is. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's see here. Talking about scratching up your knees. How about number 5?
Number 5. This is a good one. Treat your body like a house you have to live in for another 70 years, no matter how old you are.
Yeah.
Invest in keeping the foundation and structure sound. A little bit of regular maintenance can go a long way, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Adaptation.
If you're 90 years old, you should be doing the same thing, right?
Right.
If you have a 90-year-old, or let's say you have a 900-year-old house, you're still going to take care of it.
That's right.
House it well. And anyway, don't think, because if you don't maintain it, it's not going to do any. It's certainly not going to maintain you. So absolutely, positively true. I don't think there's anybody that's 90 and regretted actually staying fit or doing exercise. I can't think it. Well, if you're 90 plus year old and you regret having exercised, let us know.
Yeah, that is something I think they would take pride in and recognize, especially if they've lost a lot of their aged friends to downhill spirals from poor maintenance of their own home, so to speak. But actually, after this little recording, I'm gonna go do a little maintenance for myself, some work on flexibility and probably some strengthening and cardio. So there you go.
There you go.
Number 6, never raise your voice except for at a ball game. Very few problems have ever been fixed by a raised voice, was his commentary. But have to agree. I'm in the middle of puppy training, and a lot of the foundational training is calm, deliver positive reinforcement, goes way farther in building trust and direction. And yeah. And then you think about even with your spouse, nothing really gets fixed by raising your voice. We sometimes learn the hard way that, yeah, that didn't help anything. You just get the battle of the voices. And yeah, I think understanding and communication, and yeah. Any thoughts?
Many, because we rant and rave, and I'm a really good rant and raver. Like, I am a pro at it, and it is not very useful at all. Certainly if it doesn't really change behavior at all. And this is the thing, is that I still struggle with this, because if you're ever in a situation when you need to persuade somebody, or maybe things are not going the right way, like almost everyone here, like if you're listening to this, if someone's screaming at you, how likely are you going to be to help them?
Yeah.
You're not, right? But and so the balancing is, how do you be persuasive in such a way that you can say that you're dissatisfied, but do it in a way that people want to help you back.
Yeah.
And do it in the moment, because that's really hard, because when you're mad, it's really hard. And I can get mad. I'm really good at anger. Like, that's definitely not a gift, but I'm pretty good at it. But it doesn't really work very well. And then you have it both in personal and professional. Luckily, in my personal life, this is not something that I may get mad, but I don't yell. I don't think I've ever yelled at my kids or anything like that. But in a professional light, and certainly when you're in a hospitable kind of interaction, I mean, like renting cars or hotel rooms or whatever, there's a definitely art to it. But just the thing I would always remember, and I'm kind of burbling over this because I want to ingrain this lesson in me now, because I've been trying to learn this, is in those situations, your loud voice is not going to make the other person likely to change. In fact, they're probably going to get more rigid with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. And we all know that. Like, when people yell at me, then I immediately puts up my hackles, and I'm less likely to help them, unless there's clearly something wrong. I'm kidding. And there's something wrong.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's a good one. And certainly with your kids, like, I don't know, people yell at their kids all the time. You talked about your puppy. I am firmly convinced, like, I've never had a dog, but the dog training stuff is going to sound horrible. A lot of it is very applicable to having kids. I mean, doing the same thing, not yelling at your kids, forcing them to do things where you really want to create, like, forced choice, rather than, I don't know. It's just really interesting to me. Or the other one, like, don't hit your brother, and then you spank your kids.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Don't hit this person, or I'm going to hit you. Oh, that makes no sense. Yeah. Anyway, but
yeah, like, if even in the dog, the trainer we had says, the next phase will be some negative, like, you say no, but you just, you really want them to pay attention, obviously, if they're in danger, so that you need to build a positive reinforcement, respect.
Yeah.
And in the dog world, and like, kind of, you're the head of the pack versus they're running the pack. Because when you establish that early, and then when you have to really redirect them or tell them no or something, they're in danger, it actually will work.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense. But
yeah,
all right,
that's the one. Don't say no, or what's that? Don't say stop. Right? Don't say stop unless you need it, because it's like when they're gonna run out in front of the cars when you want that to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually did that when he was getting towards the street and there was a car coming,
mm-hmm.
and the poor little guy just like almost kind of like whimpered down. Like, I mean, he was scared as hell for me because he hadn't heard me like escalate like that before.
Mm-hmm.
But I was glad it worked that time. But I mean, he wasn't going to get hit. I had him on a leash, but he was just way too confident going out. But anyway, back off the dog stuff.
Off the dog stuff.
Number 7.
Do one good deed every single day, but never tell anyone about it.
Yeah.
Pay for someone's coffee, take out the trash without being asked, let someone into your lane. A little goes a long way. I like this one too. Yeah. It makes me, there was something I was just reading about. Oh, it had to do with like the good deeds of, capitalism. Like the hardcore capitalists will say that, we should not tax anything and blah, blah, blah. And the free market will do it. And really that's not true, because all these people who are making those donations aren't doing it out of their goodwill. They're doing it predominantly for the recognition, except for the very few that actually do this, do anonymous donations and things. Yes. So, and I guess if you want to know whether your act is purely benevolent, mm-hmm. do it without the chance of being recognized, I guess would be the way to do it. Yeah. And on the other hand, then just doing a good deed, just like a small good deed every day. I like that. Like pay for someone's coffee. I haven't done that in a long time because I haven't gone through a drive-through in a long time where you just, hey, this is pay for their coffee or whatever. That's kind of fun.
Yeah. That's cool. Let's see. Yeah, I was just thinking about it's funny. I know some people in my life that have to always tell me all the good things and what those people thought of those good things. And yeah,
how good I am. Like if you have to announce to everybody how good you are, I probably am not going to think that you're a very good person.
No. Or there's insecurities, or there's like
something there. I'm so awesome. I'm so awesome. I'm so awesome. Well, you're probably not that awesome if you have to think. If you have to tell me you're awesome, you're probably not as awesome as you think.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, that could be a whole episode. Number 8, time doesn't heal anything when it comes to relationships. Do not delay difficult conversations. Have them now before too much water floods under the bridge. Oh, that's so good. Our minds, I mean, really, honestly, a lot of this stuff is what happens in the, perception, awareness, just the whole complexity of the human brain. But it is amazing how silence can breed these stories in your head of, especially when we're not communicating things well in relationships, and both people have a completely distorted view of what's going on because they can't read your mind. Like I think this is a great rule or suggestion.
No, I suggest a rule. Yeah, I do. I would agree on that too. I think it's I think sometimes there's a little cooling off period is pretty useful if it was heated.
Yeah, it is.
But generally, if you have something, a problem enough to have a disagreement on, oftentimes the disagreement becomes a greater problem than the initial problem the disagreement was on with time, and people, like you said, they kind of blow it up over, and you could lose really special relationships over that. Mm-hmm. And what becomes more important over time is a relationship or whatever the silly thing about being right. So I would agree with that. And it's been rare that I've seen communication be more communication be more harmful than less communication versus vice versa. So if you have those, and it's never too late. Like I've reached out to people years later. Mm-hmm. I've been trying to do that a little bit more that I haven't talked to in a long time. And you kind of think, well, maybe it wasn't even good relationship. So like, oh, well, they don't want to talk to me. It's been too long. They're going to think I'm some weirdo to come back. And I don't know, people generally are happy to hear from you if you enjoyed them previously. And I think if you have a bad something where you lost a relationship over something, some sort of disagreement, my other way is if you've at least reached out, then you're never going to have those what ifs, you know. And if they choose not to respond, then that's fine. But at least you've kind of you've repaired that, and you've there's no what ifs on your end, and that's kind of nice. Yeah. Well, and a lot of times it benefits the other person too, depending on what it is. Number 9, find the things that make your eyes light up. Do more of those. And he said, the best of life is lived with the people and things that make your eyes twinkle. Prioritize them. That's very, very obvious, but true, but neglected at times. I mean, even like the hobbies that you've been toying with, and see
how excited you get, or if it really brings you a lot of joy, even if it is like your wind foiling stuff, like that stuff is, you never know what that can turn into. And even though it's work to learn some things intellectually, it's stimulating. Physically, it's definitely demanding, but then at the same time, it can bring a lot of joy for not just you, maybe connection with your children, maybe connection with other new friends you don't even know that you'll have later. So anything that gets you excited in life, do more of that.
And that actually makes me think of another quote that is not on this life lessons, but this is another one that I have read recently and I've been pondering, is by Annie Dillard, who I don't know exactly who she is, but it says, is how we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. And I think that bridge is really nice, because if you are not doing the things that make your eyes light up, then really you're not living the life that you want to lead. And I think that is I'm older and more aware and thinking about this stuff, is really just spending more time doing those bright-eyed events and trying to engage with the people that you're excited with, to try the new activities that you're excited with, to reach out and do new things that could be exciting. Just really, really key, so that you're not, did I ever tell you about Cuccaro's Orange of Life theory?
No.
This is a very, very deep philosophy, folks.
Okay.
So I'm interrupting the episode with it before we get to number 10.
Okay.
Cuccaro, who obviously is a very well-known philosopher who comes on philosophizing on the change position very much, has this theory that he developed when he was young, like probably pre-high school. And if you kind of imagine that your entire life is an orange, and when you have that orange, every day you get a slice of it. Now, at the end of that day, that slice of orange goes away. You'll never get that slice of orange back. And you only have the number of slices that are in the orange itself. So every day is an opportunity to suck as much juice out of that orange slice as you can. And so if you're not, and if you choose not to, that's one thing. But if you have day after day after day where you're wasting your orange, that's something that you need to kind of consider and ponder. Did you actually suck all the juice out of your orange slice today?
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's a very deep thing.
And you don't know how big those slices are, because it all depends on how long your life is.
Well, you don't know how big your orange is. You don't know how big your orange is. All you know is how big the slice is, and the slice is there. And some days you're like, man, this one is gone. There's just literally just pith and rind on this baby. And other ones I'm like, I barely got anything out of that one. But
yeah. I like it. It's good. Well, why don't you go to number 10 then?
Well, number 10, and there's more, but we're just going to stop here at number 10, is, if you want to read all of them, you can go to Life Lessons from 1,000 Years. And this is off of Sahil Bloom's newsletter. And you can, if you Google that, I'll go to his website. But number 10 is always remind yourself that your track record for making it through your bad days is perfect. Commentary. It's easy to lose sight of this when you're down. Zoom out and reclaim your perspective. This also makes me think of another quote that says, don't worry about your mistakes. If your mistakes are big enough, you won't have to worry after them. So that comes from one of those demotivation posters. I remember if you know those, that are like, but yeah, it's like, if you've survived this far and you made it through your bad day, it's true. You've 100% made it through your bad days. Right?
There you go.
I like that. Proven. Yeah. And I think that as you get older, and particularly when you're probably 90, 95, 100, you've probably had a lot of things that you thought were the end of the world. I'm sure you've experienced that. Things that seemed like you weren't going to be able to survive. And lo and behold, you survived. And then looking back at them, you're like, that was kind of dumb. I think most of high school, I think isn't that what high school's for?
I just glanced at 11 and 12, Kevin. I got distracted here. And I think we should do a dozen.
Okay, we'll do
I think these other two are really important. So number 11 is, if something has a minor issue, repair it right away. And his commentary is, minor issues become major issues over time. This applies equally to love, friendships, health, and home. And on all of those accounts, that people don't realize how quickly things can get out of control. And from your interactions with people to taking care of yourself and to your home. Like there's always something next in life that is going to add to that issue. And I think it's great wisdom to be like, okay, you need to take care of things as they're coming and not sit there and wait on it and let it build and become bigger issues. And then it becomes too overwhelming and you can't address any of it. Any thoughts?
Yeah, attend minor issues before they become major issues is what I would say for that one. You know, it's like for anything. In the biggest one, I think, actually, when I think of it, like the first thing that comes to mind for something like this literally comes around weight and health.
Yeah.
Because speaking as somebody who has put on weight over the years, it is so much harder to lose weight than to not gain it in the first place.
Yeah.
So the people who have had those habits, like my friends that were really fit, young, and have always had a habit of exercise, they have just maintained that. It's so much easier. It seems so much easier. But when you're you've waited and waited and waited and waited, and I'm not saying you should not start. Obviously you should start, but it would have been so much easier, sort of like the prevention kind of strategy to begin with, or anything, a little teeny leak in your whatever. Probably better to do that before your floorboards rot out than something else.
Yeah.
I like that one too.
Yeah. And tell us the final 12, number 12.
The most damning lie you can tell is the lie you tell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the lie you tell to yourself specifically. If you can't be honest with yourself, how can you be honest with anyone else? I can see why you wanted to end on this one. If you take nothing else from this list, this is the one, and kind of incorporates everything that we've ever talked about here on the Changed Physician, is really becoming aware of faults as well as strengths. Because if you are unaware of them, you can't change. And the other part with this is there's another quote about the most secure prison is the prison that you create yourself, or something like that, where you've basically created your own prison through your beliefs and your thoughts, and what you can and can't do and things like that. And it is, I just think about all the lies that we tell to ourselves all the time. And if you don't actually know it's a lie, you can never then change or escape or alter the patterns of behavior that are going to be associated with that statement. So yeah, oh my God, that's a good one.
Yeah. There's so many situations of my past where I've actually had to tell people this. And it's very important. Let's just say that. Be honest with yourself, because it's easy to be in denial of the problems you have, or even the chance to even do something about it before it becomes a big problem. So you can apply that to many different things in your life. Well, cool. I like, I don't want to call it the dirty dozen. It was I have to think of another phrase. It's a good dozen for good wisdom. So
the dirty dozen. Well, dirt's not necessarily a bad thing. So,
yeah, all this wisdom has come from probably mistakes and learning the hard way. So
yeah. Well, we should do another episode at some point. We can finish the other 28. Yeah, so maybe we'll have 2 more. We can do a little series of it. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, why don't you take us out? All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on today's episodes, where we talked about the wisdom of 1,000 years of wisdom in 12 little statements here. And again, to probably attribute, make sure this is from Sahil Bloom's website, where it's life lessons from 1,000 years old, and a great kind of curation of people who are at the end of their journeys here, and providing some perspectives on that. So really appreciate that. Appreciate that kind of content. Appreciate you, Melissa, as always, for being us. Appreciate you, Kevin. And appreciate our listeners out there. Thank you for joining us on their journey. We hope you are doing well. And if you want to continue with us, you can go to thechangedphysician.com, where you can join, whether you're a physician or a physician ally. And until next time, stay well. Take care.